What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. As we head into the middle of June, early ADPs are starting to take shape from different platforms. I went through the initial ADP list from Fantasy Pros and found 5 guys who caught my eye, whether that be because, I expected them to be more loved by the fantasy community, or I was surprised by the amount of admiration of said player. But without further ado, let's dive right in. The first player that I want to talk about today is Nick Chubb, ADP 19, RB 11. And I'll be talking about PPR League specifically. Nick Chubb the last 3 years has averaged 14 games played, 268 touches, just under 1,500 total yards, and 9 touchdowns. Just under 1,500 total yards from scrimmage ranks 10th in the entire NFL. When you narrow that down to just running backs, Chubb shoots up to number 5. We all know he's awesome. We know he's a super talented running back. Might be one of the best in the NFL. Maybe his weekly upside isn't that high in a PPR league because he doesn't catch passes. But we have a guy who's constantly rushing for over 5 yards a carry on an offense who can make a major leap with Deshaun Watson as the QB. Whether you like that or not, it's just the facts. He might play this season, he might not. And even if Watson misses time, Baker Mayfield is currently on the roster. And even if Baker Mayfield is off the team, if he gets traded or released, whatever, Jacoby Brissett has proven to be a competent backup quarterback. Can he be much worse than what Baker Mayfield was last year? And last year, Nick Chubb went off and was awesome for fantasy. Nick Chubb going as a late second round pick is pretty crazy to me. The dude should be valued way higher in fantasy leagues, regardless of format. The next player I want to talk about is Patrick Mahomes, ADP 33, QB number 2. Look, I gotta be honest, Patrick Mahomes' future scares me a little bit. Is he awesome? Of course he's awesome. Super talented? Duh. But while Mahomes had some awesome games last year, 2 games with 5 touchdowns, he also had some stinkers. 5 games with 1 or less passing TDs, and 3 games with 0 passing touchdowns. We all realize that Patrick Mahomes lost Tyreek Hill, right? One of the best receivers in the NFL, right? And I just think people believe that Mahomes is so awesome, he has kind of the Aaron Rodgers effect to where he can just overcome that loss of a great wide receiver. And sure, maybe he can. But we have to realize the receivers Mahomes has are very much unproven. Travis Kelce's awesome, of course. That's no shocker to anybody. But Juju Smith-Schuster has been injured and inefficient the past 2 seasons. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I think he sucks. I think he's a bad player. He's a field stretcher who can't catch the ball deep. Not very good. Mecole Hardman hasn't proven to be anything more than a spotty big play guy, and we have Sky Moore, who could be a positive for this receiving core, or he could fade into the crowd. To draft a QB early is a big gamble regardless of who it is. To bet on a QB who doesn't have the cheat code of running for double-digit TDs or 600 plus yards, you need Mahomes to ball out. You need him to throw for nearly 40 touchdowns to make back his fantasy price. If he finishes with 32 TDs, sure, he might finish as maybe a top 5 quarterback, but he won't be worth the 2nd, 3rd round pick that you have to spend to get him. The fact that Mahomes is the QB2 currently is really shocking to me, and that's why he belongs on this list. Coming in at number 3 on the ADP surprise list is Cordero Patterson, ADP 79, RB 29. What a weird season for Cordero Patterson. After a career of being a gadget guy, Patterson finally showed the fantasy community that he could be a useful Swiss Army knife player, Deebo Samuel light. From weeks 1 through 15, including a game where he got injured and only played 15 snaps, Patterson averaged 10 carries per game for just under 45 yards, 5 TDs on the ground the whole season, while catching 3.7 passes for 40 yards and 5 TDs. Alone, these numbers aren't super impressive, but of course, it's fantasy football, baby. You gotta add them up. So these combined add up to 14 touches per game for 83.5 yards and 10 total touchdowns. The Falcons drafted Drake London with their 1st round pick. But we realize Calvin Ridley is suspended for the entire year for sports betting. And my biggest W for Patterson's 2022 draft stock is the fact that they cut ties with Mike Davis, and the biggest threat is Tyler Algier, who was drafted in the 5th round. I'm surprised the fantasy community isn't jumping for Patterson. Coming in at number 4 on the list is Rashad Bateman, ADP 92, wide receiver 39. And if you're on Twitter following any fantasy football analyst anywhere, Rashad Bateman gets mentioned 1,000 times a day. So I expect him to be a high riser, but his initial ADP surprises me. And really, simply put, Hollywood Brown, the number 1 receiver, was traded to the Cardinals. leaving Mark Andrews and Devin Duvernay as the only reliable pass catchers in the offense, if you even count Devin Duvernay as a reliable pass catcher. Although I would expect Lamar Jackson's major uptick in passing attempts that happened in 2021, which went from 25 a game in 2020 to almost 32 in 2021. I would expect this to find a kind of a happy medium between the two. I think the Ravens want to go back to being a run-dominant team. We have to remember last year, 2 torn ACLs from running backs, J.K. Dobbins and big man Gus Edwards, were out for the entire year, leaving Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, Devonta Freeman, a lot of old fantasy relevant guys, but washed guys, which I think forced the Ravens to pass way more than what they wanted to, felt comfortable with last year. If Bateman can step in and be a reliable wide receiver, we just saw Hollywood Brown have a really valuable season and some big games, including last year, where he went for 92 catches, over 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Getting that at the wide receiver 39 as of right now is an absolute steal. So I'm surprised a guy in this really positive situation isn't getting way more hype. And to round out the list, at number 5, Zach Ertz, ADP 103, tight end 12. And you might be saying, what an old name you just mentioned, right? Zach Ertz. But when you decide to pass up on the early tight ends, you look for a late round tight end with some upside. But to me, when you see the name Zach Ertz, all I see is a guy who seems pretty locked in to catch 5 passes a game and maybe go for a touchdown. Isn't that what you want from a late round tight end? And the reason he's on this list, I don't want to turn this into a sleeper list, but I'm so surprised because the stats that Ertz put up last year were awesome. Last year, Zach Ertz totaled 74 receptions for 763 yards, 5 TDs. But if you look at the back half of the season when he was traded to the Cardinals, from week 7 through 18, Ertz averaged 7.5 targets, over 5 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown every third game. If you average this out to over a full season of when he was with the Cardinals over a full season, this averages out to 125 targets, 87 catches, just under 900 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I mean, if you take his projected 887 yards and compare that to tight ends from last year, he would have finished as the 5th highest tight end in receiving yards. Now, this did happen with DeAndre Hopkins missing some significant time, but we're in the same situation. No Christian Kirk, no DeAndre Hopkins, a healthy Kyler Murray. Ertz steps right in as a tight end 1 for me. So with all this stuff really going his way, I'm surprised Zach Ertz isn't going until, pick 100 and tight end number 12. I can't find a lot of guys, just based off of this, who have as much upside, or at least a baseline floor, as Zach Ertz. So for me, him going so late is very surprising. I thought he would be in the fringe, maybe 7, 8, 9 tight end, not tight end 12. All right, and that's it. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you liked the video that you saw today, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 500 subscribers, and I have plenty of more content coming out over the summer. I'm trying to go weekly, so let's make it happen. Once again, I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you guys next time.